Hello everybody, this is Chris from Curious of Mystery and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be beginning the very first series, an installment into my channel other than the channel trailer. So this will be my philosophy course. So first off, the philosophy course is going to be breaking out into 4 completely unique sections. Now when it comes to that, I know you may be like, how is he going to do that? What does he mean? And well, one section will be focusing on philosophy as a whole. It will probably discuss philosophers, theories, or even just the history of philosophy itself. The other 3 sections I will discuss in the next slide. So first off, this very first video is going to be discussing what is it? And by that I mean, what is philosophy? So first off, there are pillars in philosophy, and these pillars are what the other 3 sections will be based off. The first other section will be epistemology, which focuses on logic and basically the rationality of how beliefs are formed and constructed. Beyond that, the second section will be metaphysics. This is basically going to discuss how we, what things do we know and what is the reality of, this is going to discuss time, eternity, even aspects as just being, or if we know that we are a fabrication of our own imagination. All of these are metaphysical questions. Epistemology, the very first section, the one to the right in the red, left in the red. This one will be discussing how do we know knowledge. That's basically the concern of the questions. The middle one will be discussing what do we know? Do we know if everything is eternal? Do we know if everything's temporal? Do we know if God exists? Those big do we know questions are metaphysical ones. Now the third and final section is ethics. This basically, you probably have heard this term so much more than the other 2, and that's because this one applies to every single one of our lives. Culture, religion, everything is very, very concerned with ethics, and that's because ethics is pertaining to questions of what do we do with what we know. So typically you don't wonder in your mind, how do we know knowledge? Usually the people that do wonder those questions are philosophers already, and beyond that, we don't usually say, what do we know? Because that question typically seems illogical. What do we know? To answer that question, you need to know something, so therefore it's a never-ending circle. But that's not really how it works. Typically, there's assumptions that we make in place of metaphysics, which then leads us to ethics. We all have to do it, and it's irreversible and unavoidable. You have to do ethics, which is what constructs really the foundation of a lot of our society. But really, ethics comes from metaphysics, which comes from epistemology. So this is really how you should be seeing the series. So the 4 parts. The first part will be kind of the central region of philosophy. We'll discuss other philosophers and history, just as a recap. I know I've said this before. But the other 3 sections will include epistemology respectively, which will basically cover theories and ideas, and that would probably consider argumentation, modus ponens, modus tollens, if you know what I mean. But metaphysics will probably discuss the possibility of time travel. We'll even discuss if it's possible for objects to come out of nothing, or if the Big Bang Theory is really relevant. And then ethics. We'll discuss the trolley problem, the organ transplant problem. If you know any of these, then feel free to leave it in the comment section. But if any of these are new, then keep in touch and you will see some information on the discussion. Now beyond that, there's more as to what philosophy is. So first off, philosophy is epistemology, which I'm relating to the red color here. It is also metaphysics, which I'm going to be relating to the blue color, and ethics, which I'm going to be relating to the yellow color. Now, what will be coming on top of this chart is not relevant to the certain fields, but rather I'm doing this to kind of encapsulate all of what philosophy is in one diagram. So first off, philosophy is an attitude. So this is going to be off of the area of discipline, which is the 3 behind. The very first thing beyond epistemology, metaphysics, and ethics that philosophy is an attitude. And that is an attitude of engagement, of searching for the truth. Philosophy, if you break down the stems, philo and Sophie, they literally break down to love and wisdom. Philosophy basically means, in translation, the love of wisdom. So people that are typically considered wise search for greater truth, search for why is something the way it is? Should this thing be the way it is? Or why do I know that it's the way it is? So these questions are always being asked to check the truth value. Now, this attitude is very important for philosophy, and if you don't have it, you don't care for the wisdom or the truth value of certain things, that's okay. In philosophy, there's two very popular groups of kind of that are commonly seen not in support of philosophy, and these tend to be the fool and the simple. The fool is somebody that believes they know all the information that's out there, or all the information that's relevant to their position in life, and they will no longer search. Maybe they were a philosopher, but then they stopped. They believe that they know everything. But then the simple never has taken that step, never is really interested, and that's okay. If you're the fool or the simple, it's fine. Those words aren't to be derogatory, they're just very, very simple. Somebody thinks they have everything and stops ever wanting to know more or check if they actually know. That's the fool. The simple is the person that never wants to find out more about their views and if they're true. Now, beyond an attitude, philosophy is also a method. And by method, I mean it's kind of a form of examination and a refinement. If you think that you know that God exists, then you'll use philosophy as a way to prove it, to find it, to kind of find that relevant substance that will give you arguments to his existence. Beyond you'll feel it, the Holy Spirit will be there. Beyond just those answers. Sometimes that's not enough for those people that have that attitude to know more. Not everybody has that attitude, so sometimes you'll feel it. The Holy Spirit will tell you is enough. But there is more. And another thing that philosophy is an application for self-evaluation. Let's be honest. Not everybody is always right all the time. Sometimes you have been raised a certain way where you have these certain assumptions in life. Does that mean you are right? No. If we go under the assumption that it does, then let's see what that means. There's Charlie and somebody else. So let's just get names out of it. There's person X and person Y. Person X believes something that contradicts person Y. So let's imagine person X thinks that God exists, person Y believes that God does not exist. Therefore, there must be some distinction. Both of them cannot be right or wrong at the same time. So, what is it? Are they both right? Or are they both wrong? So this is where self-evaluation is critical. Sometimes you're going to have to test beliefs. It's not true that all your assumptions will always be correct. And self-evaluation with philosophy will help with your integrity. Now beyond that, philosophy is finally a application. And by application, I mean that you're able to use it to construct your worldview. And worldviews, don't they construct culture? Because if I believe that God exists, and that he wants me to be certain ways, or however you think it, then wouldn't that mean that I would act a certain way? And if I act a certain way, wouldn't that cause me to impact people a certain way? Now imagine there's a variety of people doing this. Wouldn't that then mean that our variety of cultures would create a civilization? So, in a way, worldview kind of leads into culture, which leans into civilization itself. So, to recap, philosophy is an area of study, hence the three colors. It is a method to examine and refine one's belief, as in red, we'll go clockwise. It is also an attitude. It's basically, you have to have that attitude, that love of wisdom. And then it's also an application, which is in the yellow, to kind of self-evaluate your beliefs, to find that greater truth. And then in the center, it is a system. So that's basically all that we need to discuss regarding that. Now, closing. So within this video, we have discussed what philosophy is inherently. We have also laid out what the rest of this series will be like. There will be parts that are just philosophy, and other philosophers, the history of philosophy, all those will be pertaining to this series. Now there will be 3 other series that will be coming along with this one, and that will be epistemology, metaphysics, and ethics. Each one will be pertaining to those questions. Epistemology would be relating to how do we know what we know. I would probably focus more on argumentation and logistics and kind of truth value, because that's really what that one stands for. Metaphysics, I'll be doing what do we know? And that will be pertaining to time, temporal space, basically anything, even eternal beings if they can exist, or if the Big Bang Theory is right, something can come out of nothing. And then ethics. What do we do with what we know? And basically when it comes to that, I will be discussing that everything. Like, we could even discuss complicated political issues. And I feel that this way of separating up philosophy can really help with kind of grasping the concepts. Now, what's next? Well, the next case is going to be more on philosophy before we diverge into the 3 other playlists. So, the next topic is common ground. And common ground, just to give you a taste of it before the next video, is basically something that it gives a framework, or a foundation if you will, as to how to go about thinking and being a philosopher. Because you don't need a degree to be a philosopher. You maybe need a degree to be a reputable philosopher, or to have that greater understanding and really that reputation. But you can be a philosopher without the degree. There's many people that have done it, and there's many people that probably will continue to do it. But if you want to be like a really established philosopher that's respected by others, then yeah, of course the degree. But that's not what we're talking about. We're just trying to become the best that we can, assuming that we're not getting the degree. So that really sums up what I wanted to cover in this episode, and thank you all for tuning in and staying with me all the way to the end. And I hope to see you next time, and as always, stay curious in the mystery, and Chris is signing off.